Okay, so here's part 2 of Soul Reaver, and for this first little video here, I'm just showing you, I'm getting killed in the Spectral Realm just to show you something about Raziel. I meant to do this in the first video, but I completely forgot. So this is what happens when you die as a spirit, basically.
As my agent, you are beyond death, Raziel. Your enemies cannot destroy you. If you grow too weak, however, you will always be drawn here to recover.
So that's something about Raziel that's super important, is he cannot be destroyed. So if his body is destroyed, he goes to the Spectral Realm. If his spirit becomes too weak, he returns to where he first entered the Spectral Realm and recovers. Alright, so last time Raziel killed his brother Melchiah and got the ability to phase through gates. So now he's heading back to the Sanctuary of the Clans, which is the fortress that was built around the pillars where Kain basically rules his empire from. And here we're just kind of fighting our way in. See the vampire guards, but I showed up behind them, and I will use the ultimate vampire killing weapon, a vase. Fuck you!
Raziel.
Kain.
The Abyss has been unkind.
I am your creation, Kain. Now, as before, you criticize your own work. What have you done with my clan, degenerate? You have no right.
What I have made, I can also destroy, child.
Damn you, Kain! You are not God! This act of genocide is unconscionable!
Conscience? You dare to speak to me of conscience? Only when you have felt the full gravity of choice should you dare question my judgment. Your lifespan is a flicker compared to the mass of doubt and regret that I have borne since Mortanius first turned me from the light. To know that the fate of the world hangs dependent on the advisedness of my every deed. Can you even begin to conceive what action you would take in my position?
I would choose integrity, Kain.
Look around you, Raziel. See what has become of our empire. Witness the end of an age. The clans scattered to the corners of Nosgoth. This place has outlasted its usefulness. As have you.
The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. The legends claimed that the blade was possessed and thrived by devouring the souls of its victims. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead.
Alright, so now we're going to watch that cutscene again, and I'm just going to talk about what's going on while it's playing. First things first, Raziel enters the Sanctuary of the Clans, and it seems like Kain knows that he's there immediately and has been waiting for him, which is kind of suspicious, right? So the first thing that Raziel brings up is his clan and their destruction. Kain basically says, like, you know, I made all of you. I can unmake all of you as I see fit. And Raziel, you know, says, damn you, like, you're not God. Like, this is bullshit. You know, Kain's really full of himself, and he kind of does what he wants no matter what. And Raziel confronts him about the morality of that. And Kain basically says, like, shut up. I'm the pillar of balance. The entire fate of the world rests on my shoulders. Don't, like, lecture me. about what is right and wrong. Like, you have no idea, like, the weight of being the world's savior. And here he pulls the classic old person thing of, I've been around longer, I know more than you. Which is what every old person in my life has pulled on me. And you know what? I don't know how to beat it, because there's never going to be a point where I am older than people who came before me. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not smarter. So anyway, Raziel basically says, get out of my face, old man. If faced with that same problem, I would choose integrity. Like, I would do the right thing. Then Kain basically decides that this conversation is over and draws the Soul Reaver.
The clans scattered to the corners of Nosgoth. This place has outlasted its usefulness.
Now, Raziel here has one of my favorite written lines of dialogue for describing a weapon ever. Let's listen to it again.
The Soul Reaver, Kain's ancient blade, older than any of us and 1,000 times more deadly. The legends claimed that the blade was possessed and thrived by devouring the souls of its victims. For all our bravado, we knew what it meant when Kain drew the Soul Reaver in anger. It meant you were dead.
I absolutely adore that line. So basically, Raziel says that this sword is older than any of the vampires, older even than Kain. And it's more deadly than all of us. Then he says, for all our bravado, which he's saying, like, all the vampire lords, they act like they're the shit, you know, like big shots, invincible. But when Kain pulls out the Soul Reaver and he's pissed off, that means that you are fucking dead. Like, there's no, like, well, maybe I could take him. No, you're dead. And even this angle that the cutscene takes place on, the Soul Reaver is, like, looming over Raziel, and Kain is so big. Like, Raziel knows he's fucked. So then you proceed to fight and smack Kain in the face 3 times.
The blade is vanquished. So it unfolds. And we are a step closer to our destinies.
I swore I saw a glint of satisfaction in Kain's eye when the Soul Reaver was destroyed. I did not understand the game that Kain was playing, but I knew the finishing move.
From this moment and ever afterward, you and this blade are inextricably bound. Soul Reaver and Reaver of Souls, your destinies are intertwined. By destroying the sword, you have liberated it from its corporeal prison and restored it to its true form, a wraith blade, its energy unbound. No longer a physical blade, it can only manifest itself in the material realm when your strength is fully restored. Once manifest, it will sustain you.
What are you, little soul? Another of Kain's creatures come to taunt this bound specter.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
How have you come to haunt these pillars?
Kain refused the sacrifice. The Pillar of Balance, corrupted to its core, stands as a monument to his blind ambition. Now these pillars serve only to bind me here, my prison and eternal home, thanks to the avarice of your master, Kain.
That bastard can claim no allegiance from me.
Then we share a common foe, Raziel. Return here when you have need. Ariel remembers what others have forgotten.
So Raziel runs into Ariel, and you learn that she is still bound here after thousands of years because Kain refused to make the sacrifice. And all she can really do is just lament and inhabit the spectral realm. And she becomes sort of like a guide, and she'll give you advice on where to head next.
Far in the eastern mountains, a stifled titan stands in mute surrender, unwilling host to a parasitic swarm.
Before we move on, I want to talk about what happens in this cutscene. So Kain takes a swipe to the face, and then hits Raziel with a bolt of lightning, and then goes to destroy him with the Soul Reaver. But as the sword hits him, it shatters. And there's like an earthquake. There's a lot of power is released. And Kain seems to be like happy that this has happened. Like he even laughs as he leaves.
To our destinies.
So now, of course, Raziel's soul isn't devoured, but his body is destroyed, and he enters the spectral realm. And there he sees the soul that was inhabiting the sword is kind of there waiting for him. So he goes to touch it, and the soul that was inhabiting the sword binds itself to Raziel forever. Like it binds itself to his soul. So they're like combined for eternity now. This makes Raziel stronger in that when he is at full strength, the Soul Reaver will appear, and it will keep his physical body from like deteriorating over time. And also, it's a powerful weapon. The Soul Reaver basically will make short work of any vampires you run into from this point forward. And in the spectral realm, you always have it, which gives you a huge advantage there.
Your brother Zephon's keep lies far to the east, beyond the ruins that greeted your first exit from the underworld. He and his brood have cocooned themselves in a derelict cathedral, having murdered its human guardians.
So both Ariel and the Elder God tell Raziel where he can find his next brother, Zephon. And it's here. This is a human cathedral that was built on this moat to repel vampires. And Zephon has taken it over with his vampire children, who we will see right here. This is one of his vampire spawn. And you see they're kind of like very insect-like, and you can also see that the Soul Reaver obliterates vampires. And anything else for that matter. You know, as long as it has a soul. So basically this is a walled city that had a cathedral in it. And in this cathedral, humans had found a way to repel vampires with a specific kind of weapon that uses sound.
Once a testament to mankind's defiance of Kain's empire, this towering cathedral now stood derelict. The humans who worshipped here, dead for centuries. Its architects conceived this tower as a holy weapon against the vampire menace, a colossal instrument of brass and stone. The cathedral's pipes, once tuned to blast a deadly hymn, now stood silent, and these vacant spaces whistled their impotence.
Okay, so we've traveled through this cathedral doing lots of block puzzles and having the game crash and me lose all my saved work and having to do it all over again. And we get to this this hallway that looks kind of gross and kind of spiderwebby. And there's this big opening. It looks kind of organic, and we see a vampire hunter has made it here, but he's been ripped in half. by something. So let's enter and see what goes on. Here he is. So the vampire hunter has a flamethrower that's still kind of going.
Prodigal son. There is no returning for you, Raziel.
Zephon, your visage becomes you. It's an appropriate reflection of your soul.
And you are not his handsome Raziel anymore. His precious firstborn son turned betrayer. You have missed so many changes, little Raziel. Look around you. See how the human's weapon of destruction has become my home. Indeed, my body. A cocoon of brick and granite from which to watch a pupating world.
A crevice in which to cower, only scuttling from the shadows to devour a victim already ensnared in your cowardly trap. But you've made the mistake of leaving me unbound, and it is you who must succumb to my will.
Will, instinct, reflex action. The insect mind finds little difference. I warn you, brother. As my stature has grown, so it is matched by my appetite. Step forward, morsel.
So this is Raziel's brother Zephon, the second youngest after Melchiah. And I just want to make a note of how fucking awesome his design is. Look at his face splits open. That's so cool. That's such a good design for PS1. I'd love to see it, you know, with a little bit more processing power. It would probably be amazing. So Zephon is actually, his body has become bound to this room. And his vampires kind of bring him food in order to sustain him. And there you go. This is how we defeat him. He drops these kind of exploding sacks. I don't know if they're supposed to be eggs or whatever. After you destroy his legs, and then you can light them on fire and throw them at his face. It's a simple puzzle, but yeah, for the time it was pretty effective. His mouth comes undone and tries to take a bite out of you. We also see in that cutscene that the brothers don't exactly like each other. Like, you can kind of tell that even back when they were all on the same team, like, the brothers had, they were all jealous of, Raziel. Like, oh, he's the firstborn, he's the best, like, that kind of thing. And Raziel and Zephon apparently, didn't get along. Raziel calls Zephon, or he says his visage, becomes his soul. You know, now the outside matches the inside, commenting that Zephon's kind of a coward and a creep. I just find it pretty cool. And here we go. This should finish him.
Consuming Zephon's apostate soul has bestowed on you a new gift. Like his vampire spawn, you're able to scale certain walls which are otherwise impassable, but only in the physical realm. In the spirit world, these insubstantial edifices will not support you.
Before we go, let's take another close-up look at Zephon's design. And it's a little hard here because of the old graphics, but see how his mouth kind of remove, like, it's kind of like Alien, like he has like a double jaw, and then like the mask that covers his face like forms his human face. It's very cool.
In the mountains beyond the pillars, Nosgoth's cataclysms have exposed an ancient crime. Endowed with Zephon's soul, you may now progress where your path was hitherto impeded.
The human citadel, its towering walls and deep moats engineered to keep Nosgoth's vampire plague at bay.
So before we move on with the story, I just wanted to show you the human stronghold. This is one of the last human settlements in the world, and you can kind of explore it. The problem is I think most of the content for this area was cut, so not a lot going on.
Though the city was well fortified against vampires, its human architects hadn't considered a breach by a creature such as myself.
Okay, so this is the entrance to the human city, and because I've been such a good vampire hunter, the humans will welcome me. You can see they have like moats and stuff in order to kind of stop vampires from being able to enter. It's like a very high walled city, which most vampires wouldn't be able to get into. And here we see Boobs McGee worshipping me because I'm awesome vampire hunter. Man. So now when the humans worship you, what you can do is you can kind of take sips of their soul without killing them, because they kind of offer themselves up to you. And if you do that without hurting them, you will be able to heal, and you won't kill the person. So like you can do it to the citizens. So she's just kind of like drained a little bit, and you can also do it to the vampire hunters as long as they worship you. If they don't worship you, you can't do that shit. But the problem is because there's not really a lot of stuff going on in the human city, like a lot of the stuff that I guess was supposed to happen here was cut out of the game, like it doesn't really help out. Like there's not many points where you fight vampires with humans around. There's a few, but not many. So here you can drain this this pipe, and then you follow down, and then you see that the problem is you got a vampire. You got a vampire in your drain. I'll just take care of that. So then it comes to this area, which looks like it might be important, but again, there's like no enemies in here, no humans, no story. It's just an area you can kind of unlock and explore. And it's cool. And now what I think this is so that those little pieces give you extra life. I think this fountain, the Soul Reaver was originally supposed to be able to absorb different elements and kind of gain those elemental properties. You can still kind of do that with one element, but the other elements I think were cut out of the game, and I think this was supposed to be like the Water Reaver, but doesn't exist anymore. So now let's go back to Ariel and see what she says, where to go.
Like a corpse in a shallow grave, corruption rises to the surface. Beyond these pillars, the defiled victim mutely screams its outrage.
Well, that sounds intense. So using our brother's soul, we've learned to climb. Very useful, and we can explore the back of the Sanctuary of the Clans. Look at that, PlayStation 1 not being able to see to the other side of the room of going on there. Oh god. Alright, so we go this way, and we will discover an ancient tomb.
The ancient tomb of the Seraphim, once impenetrably sealed, now ravaged by Nosgoth's upheavals, its mysteries lay exposed. In the time of Vorador, centuries before Kain was made, The Seraphim warrior priests waged a merciless war against the vampire tribes of Nosgoth. Emboldened by righteousness, they committed unspeakable and indiscriminate acts of violence, massacring fledglings and ancients alike. They decimated entire bloodlines in mere decades. Now their husks lay here, murderers enshrined.
So this is basically an ancient tomb of those vampire hunters that almost wiped out the vampires in the original game. So Raziel's gonna use his abilities to get in.
Take heed, Raziel. A forgotten history lies within. Know thyself, though it may destroy you.
As I pulled the stone free, a sigh of sepulchral air escaped the inner chamber. I was not prepared for what lay beyond this threshold. These crypts, defiled caskets of Seraphim saints, bearing my brothers' names and my own. The irony of Kain's blasphemous act rushed in on me with the crushing force of revelation. Were my hands not as bloody as these? Worse, I had spilled the blood of my brothers, these very comrades whose tombs lay ravaged before me.
Yes, Raziel, you were a Seraphim, born of the same force that all but destroyed your race. Before the dawn of the Empire, you were chosen. Kain, Nosgoth's solitary self-declared monarch, plundered this tomb and raised you from these crypts. Breathing his vampiric gift into your defiled corpses, he resurrected you as his favored sons.
So Raziel was a Seraphim. He was an ancient vampire hunter back when he was human, just like Malik, you can see there. Remember Malik from the first game, the guy who was kind of bound to his armor? And you can see that Malik doesn't have a sarcophagus. And Raziel's brothers as well. That's Terrell, Duma. All of them were high-ranking Seraphim warriors that Kain had busted into this tomb and made them into his vampire lieutenants, as kind of like a joke, actually. Like, he took these high-ranking vampire hunters and turned them into his high-ranking vampire sons. So under the tomb, after you go into the spectral realm, you find that there's this little alcove, and you can fight this Sla, or whatever the hell this thing's called, and you can kind of get through this gate and move into this next area. This is like the secret passage under the tomb, only for ghosts. So yeah, so Raziel, like, gets this revelation that he, in life, was the antithesis, like the opposite of what he was as a vampire. And now he's a little shook.
Heretic, you shall not pass.
Such loyalty to one who has you guarding this outpost like a chained dog. Do you prosper on the scraps he casts you?
Your insults will do nothing to blunt the agonies of your demise.
Kain killed me once. Behold the result.
I have no more to fear from you.
So this vampire that is threatening us is a Tyrellian vampire. This is the vampire son of one of the older vampire brothers. I think it's the second oldest next to Raziel. I'm going to use my force magic to push him into the dirty water. Goodbye. And then from his soul...
This relic has infused you with the power to compress and manipulate space. As your symbiotic weapon, the Soul Reaver is also thus enhanced. You may focus and project an orb of kinetic energy to strike objects that are otherwise beyond your reach.
So that says from the relic, that was retconned. Basically, Raziel eats the vampire's soul and gets the ability to do these little Hadouken things. So you can kind of charge up the Soul Reaver and kind of shoot these little blasts. They just kind of knock enemies back. They don't really do much damage, but if you knock them against the wall, they'll become stunned. But this is a power that Tyrellian vampires have.
North of the Seraphan tomb, your brother Rahab has secluded himself and his progeny in the ruins of a half-drowned abbey.
So we've been given the location of our next brother, Rahab. So he and his children, and that's a kind of a picture of him, take their refuge up here in the flooded abbey north of the Seraphan tomb. So now Rahab's vampires, they've overcome their weakness to water, but they are very weak to sunlight. Like they instantly combust when they touch the sun. So we're gonna go hunt down them.
Once a sanctuary against the vampire menace, this abbey has been drowned by the deluge spilling from this wounded land. Your brother Rahab and his brood, devastated even by the feeble rays of Nosgoth's sun, overcame their vulnerability to water and retreated from the surface. Now they haunt these ruins and glide in the darkness of its stagnant depths.
So this is the drowned abbey. It's an old church that, due to the cataclysms of the world, is half underwater. And you see I'm kind of trapped in here. So, in these waters there are these Rahabian vampires who are unaffected by the water. They no longer burn. They're completely at home in it, and they kind of have like these fish-like features, I guess you'd call it. And of course, like the other two brothers, like their master is like a more advanced, more monstrous version of them. This area is a lot of like platforming, like trying not to fall in the water. There you can see the tail of one of the vampires there. But we'll get a better look at one in a second. Yeah, there's one there. You see, like I launch these little blasts at him. Whoop. They spit water at you too. So if you knock them into the sun, they like instantly combust, and they don't like you. So this area is actually quite, like, because of the age of this game, it's quite janky. Oh, let's blast that guy. Boom! right into the spikes. That was pretty cool. Okay, after much falling into the water and dying, I'm now on top of the church. I think I just have to find... God, PlayStation. Come on, there we go. I have to go into this bell tower and ring the bell to open the doors. And then I will be able to fight my brother. So yep, there we go. It has created an opening down here. And as we run down, we run straight into the water. My material body is dissolved, and then I can go down even further, the spectral realm. And here's the entrance to the actual abbey, which is of course drowned. Now I will very nimbly make my way up here. Oop. And conveniently there's a shifting point, so I can shift into the material world and see my brother.
Raziel.
Rahab, you have adapted well to your environment, for one so maladjusted.
Do not mock me, Raziel. You of all of us should respect the power bestowed by a limitation overcome. Kain said you would come.
You speak with the murderer?
You would do well to mind your blasphemous tongue.
What more did he tell you?
That you would destroy me.
I will indeed. But tell me, before I tear your soul from its moorings, do you know what we were before Kain spawned us?
Human.
Seraphan, Rahab, the antithesis of all we ever believed.
Does it matter? We were lost. He saved us.
Saved us? From what?
From ourselves.
Woof, these vampires are big believers in their daddy Kain. So this is a really simple fight. They're weak against sunlight. The projectiles are working on him, so I'm just going to blast open these and let the sunlight in.
Infused with Rahab's soul, you have overcome your former vulnerability to water's touch. Immersion in water will no longer dissolve your physical body, enabling you to swim to areas heretofore beyond your reach.
So there we go. A limitation overcome. And Raziel can swim now. And actually the swimming controls are not bad. You can kind of hit X to kind of do little strokes like that. You can hold L1 and F. You can hold L1 and X to give yourself a big boost and like blast out of the water. It's actually not bad. And since Raziel is a corpse, basically, he doesn't have to worry about finding air. So that's something you don't have to worry about for the rest of the game. And water will no longer hurt you at all. So. Pretty cool. Alright, so this is one of the elemental forges. This one was still left in the game, and this imbues the Reaver with fire, basically.
This elemental forge is tuned to the Soul Reaver's energy. Once baptized in this primordial flame, the blade may be imbued with fire at any future time.
So now you can basically pass the Reaver through fire in the environment, and it'll become the Fire Reaver, which is a bit more powerful. I'll show you how the Fire Reaver works a little bit later on, but for right now, let's find out where we gotta go next. I like how you get it and it is immediately extinguished.
Beyond the cliffs that witnessed your execution, a silent city sits in frozen tableau. Locked in eternal limbo, they await redemption or release.
Centuries past, your brother Dumas retreated with his clan into Nosgoth's northern wilderness. Empowered by the gift of Rahab's soul, seek out his mountain stronghold. But tread carefully. These frozen wastes have mysteries yet to disclose.
Alright, so it's time to visit Brother Dumas, and he is north of the Abyss, which is where we are now. And with Rahab's ability to swim, and his ability to burst out of the water at full speed, like this, there we go, we can get up here and explore the northern lands. So here we are, we see that it's snowing here. We can climb up this wall and gain entry to the Dumas Vampire's fortress. But when we do, we will find something a little different waiting for us than the other vampire strongholds.
This city once teemed with the life of my kind. Could it be that other clans had suffered the same fate as mine? In his madness, could Kain spare none of his brood?
It was not Kain, but Dumas' own arrogance that brought the downfall of his clan. These are human weapons, Raziel. Believing themselves invincible, Dumas and his offspring failed to see an attack coming from the least likely assailants. Complacent in their arrogance, they were taken by surprise, allowing the human vampire hunters to decimate their ranks with little resistance. The few that escaped have been reduced to scavengers.
So Dumas' clan was basically attacked by humans, and apparently the humans won. So a lot of these vampires here are dead, and you won't be fighting many vampire enemies, but you will find a lot of vampire wraiths in the spectral realm, and I think there's one right here. Yep. So this clan was devastated by humans, and that's why they've become like kind of scavengers throughout the land. Like they don't have like one clan area that they inhabit; they're all over the place. And here is the throne of this empire, and we find their master.
My brother Dumas, a powerful warrior in life. He would have burned with shame to have me find him here like a stuck pig.
Yep, so Dumas has been impaled by the human invaders, and he's just kind of been left here, just stuck to his throne. You see all the decadent, like, statues and stained glass and everything. What a great empire he had that was completely destroyed by the human invasion there. What a fool! Now, of course, him being impaled here is not enough, so we have to free him from his death. And if you remember, you know, when you unimpale vampires in this game, they heal and revive. So we're gonna see if we can do that to Dumas here. Wakey, wakey, brother.
Unbound at last. I thank you, brother.
Your thanks are premature, Dumas. I have not forgotten whose hands bore me into the abyss.
The sentries in Limbo have honed my strength. Not even Kain is my equal.
Even the strongest vampire is vulnerable.
We shall test your thesis, Raziel.
My bloodthirst has been superseded by an even darker hunger. I will consume your soul before this day is done.
And so begins one of the most confusing fights in this game. I remember when I first did this as a child, I could not figure out what to do with this fucking guy, because it's just a big empty room. But first of all, so Dumas is the one of the elder... No. He's the third oldest. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So it's Raziel, Turel, and then Dumas. And Dumas was one of the two vampires that threw him into the abyss. So now, because Dumas has been in Limbo, he has the soul-sucking abilities that Raziel has, or any other vampire that has died and been resurrected. So now, I don't know if you're seeing it here, but I have to lead Dumas all the way through the entire fucking level. I have to lead him all the way back to this giant furnace area. And it's so far away. Like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen in any video game. Like, you saw, like, all the other bosses in this game, and most bosses in every video game ever, like, the boss's weakness is in the room that they're in. In this level, like, you have to lead this guy all the way back to this furnace, and you have to turn the furnace on, like turn the gas on, and then light the fire, and the furnace will cook him. I could not figure this shit out as a child. I remember, I think I had to like look this up or read about it or something, like before the internet was a thing. It was crazy.
Consuming Dumas' soul empowers you to wind a constricting band of spectral energy around your enemies. This energy manifests itself in both the spectral and material realms, and in the physical world, it can be employed to manipulate otherwise immovable objects. In the furthermost canyon of Nosgoth's frozen wastes, the hushed silences embrace an ancient enigma. In the bowels of this labyrinth, your master awaits.
In the bowels of an inverted clockwork, the tormentor awaits. Be wary, Raziel. Those blind with rage are by destiny ensnared.
Okay, so it seems like the Elder God and Ariel are pointing me towards Kain at this point, right? They're saying the Tormentor, your master, awaits. So we're heading further into the north to try to find Kain, armed with Dumas' useless ability. Here's the Fire Reaver, by the way. You can see that two of the Hadoken-y things will now ignite vampires, which is awesome. The Fire Reaver is, quite an upgrade. I don't like that the Killing Blow lights them on fire instead of exploding them. So it looks like a step down. That's the sunlight magic. You get different magics throughout the game. They have nothing to do with the story, so I kind of skipped them. So this is Duma's power. This is the most useless thing. It's just to do these little puzzles. And it's awkward because you have to like run around them and stuff. It's really weird. But whatever. You get the constrict ability and it lets you turn dials for puzzles. And then here...
The Oracle's Cave, where Kain's first fateful meeting with Mobius occurred. Mobius played the role of a doddering soothsayer, stirring his pot of visions while dispensing enigmatic predictions to gullible visitors. Underneath the facade was Mobius the Time Streamer, sorcerer of the Circle of Nine, a ruthless manipulator with the power to bend time. Since his murder at Kain's hands centuries ago, these caves have stood vacant, though, like Mobius himself, they are rumored to be only a facade for a much larger, more elaborate complex. I sensed that Kain was here, and at that moment, I would have plumbed the depths of hell to find him.
So we've stumbled upon the Oracle's Cave, which is the first place that Kain ever met Mobius the Time Streamer, although he didn't know it at the time. And after using the ability on this on his cauldron here, we find there's like a back passageway further into the Time Streamer's hideaway here. Here we find some kind of like clockwork device, which is just puzzles, lots of puzzles that I'm going to skip. And then here's a statue of the Time Streamer.
This, I deduced, must be the man himself, the Time Streamer, Mobius. He seemed not at all the impressive figure I had imagined from Kain's boasted exploits. And yet, even this cold image radiated a certain undeniable power.
Alright, so many puzzles later, we find ourselves at the bottom of the Time Streamer's hideout. I don't even know what this place is called. And we're running down this hallway that kind of loops around on itself and spirals down. And eventually we're going to come across a window. There it is.
My arrival in this miserable age. What trickery is this?
It is no illusion, Raziel, but a glimpse into the currents of time itself.
So that wasn't an illusion. Raziel actually saw himself in time reviving after being tossed into the abyss. So he continues down the hallway and there's another window.
These apparitions torment me. Has this all been foretold?
So Raziel's mind is now reeling like, did Kain know all this shit was gonna happen? When did he know it? Did he know it before he even threw him into the abyss? Fuck!
Impossible. This must be one of Kain's deceptions. My mind reels with conflict. Does Kain await me moments from now? Or in some century yet to come?
So now Raziel is seeing things from the future. But the problem is he doesn't know when in the future they are.
This cannot be. What madness does this scene portend? Kain must think me credulous to suffer these lies. Is this phantasm a conjuration of my mind, or an echo of future events?
So Raziel's mind is probably doing somersaults right now, having some glimpses into the future events that he doesn't understand. And finally he runs down the hallway and comes to this door where he meets...
At last. I must say I'm disappointed in your progress. I imagined you'd be here sooner. Tell me, did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
No. I had faith in you. In your ability to hate. In your self-righteous indignation.
Lies. You cannot have foreseen all of this.
Eternity is relentless, Raziel. When I first stole into this chamber centuries ago, I did not fathom the true power of knowledge. To know the future, Raziel. To see its paths and streams tracing out into the infinite. As a man, I could never have contained such forbidden truths. But each of us is so much more than we once were. Gazing out across the plains of possibility, do you not feel with all your soul how we have become like gods? And as such, are we not indivisible?
As long as a single one of us stands, we are Legion. And that is why, when I must sacrifice my children to the void, I can do so with a clear heart.
Very poetic, Kain. But in the end, you offer no more than a convenient rationalization for your crimes.
These chambers offer insight for those patient enough to look. In your haste to find me, perhaps you have not gazed deeply enough. Our futures are predestined. Mobius foretold mine a millennium ago. We each play out the parts fate has written for us. We are compelled ineluctably down preordained paths. Free will is an illusion.
I have been to the tomb of Seraphan, Kain. Your dirty secret is exposed. How could you transform a Seraphan priest into a vampire?
How could I not? One must keep his friends close, Raziel, and his enemies even closer. Can you grasp the absurd beauty of the paradox? We are the same. Seraphan and vampire. With our holy wars, our obsession with Nosgoth's domination, who better to serve me than those whose passion transcends all notions of good and evil?
I will not applaud your clever blasphemy. The Seraphan were saviors, defending Nosgoth from the corruption that we represent. My eyes are opened, Kain. I find no nobility in the unlife you rudely forced on my unwilling corpse.
You may have uncovered your past, but you know nothing of it. You think the Seraphan were noble? Altruistic? Don't be simple. Their agenda was the same as ours.
You are lost in a maze of moral relativism, Kain. These apparitions and portents. What game are you playing now?
Destiny is a game, is it not? And now, you await my latest move. You nearly had me, Raziel. But this is not where or how it ends. Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Be warned, Raziel. Once you cross this threshold, you are beyond my influence.
Raziel, Redeemer and Destroyer, Pawn and Messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. Where time is but a loop, a loose stitch in the universal cloth, a streamer might seize upon a chance, a fatal slip, and plunge the fate of planets into chaos.
So that's Soul Reaver. It's a pretty fucking awesome game. It's aged. It's aged a lot, but it's still got a lot good about it. Let's talk about those last few cutscenes. So Raziel runs into Kain in the time machine, basically, and he's like still upset that he's just realized that Kain saw all this shit coming, and he confronts him on it, and Kain's like, "Yeah, I saw all this was gonna happen. That's how I didn't feel bad about throwing you in the abyss, and I didn't feel bad about having you kill your brothers." And Raziel's like, "Are you crazy? Like, you're still guilty of it. Look at all this cool art." Anyway, so Raziel's just frustrated and doesn't understand what's going on, and Kain's like, "Listen, life is like this. Like, we are on this road from the beginning to the end, and we can't do anything about it. Everything is just preordained, and doesn't matter what you do." And Raziel's like, like he has nothing to say because he's just like beginning to learn like how things work. And Kain has been like plotting this for centuries, So Raziel mentions like I was like this holy like knight, and you turned me into a vampire. You corrupted me. And Kain laughs at him, and he's like, "You think the Sarafan were the good guys? Like, they weren't the good guys. They wanted world domination just like I wanted. It's just it's the same shit. It's just the other side of a coin, Raziel doesn't believe him. He thinks that Kain is still just pushing his buttons. So they fight. The boss fight is not good. It's like not well designed. You have to chase Kain around while he zaps you, and you can just barely make it to him before he instantly kills you. And you have to hit him 3 times. When you hit him 3 times, he goes into the time chamber. He's like, "Oh, you almost killed me, but you didn't later." So he runs in. Now the Elder God chimes in and says, like, "Once you go through time, like, you're out of my reach. I can't help you anymore." Raziel doesn't care, of course. Like, he's gonna get his revenge. So he chases Kain, and then he runs into Mobius. And Mobius knows who he is and starts spouting some cryptic bullshit, and that's where we end the game. And that's going to pick up in Soul Reaver 2, which I don't know how I'm going to record, because that game is for PlayStation 2, and I don't know how to record it, and I don't know if my PlayStation 2 will even work. So I got to figure that out. I might take a break. I might like do some other stuff. I'm tired of listening to my own voice doing these doing these games. But yeah, I mean, I love the story in these games. They're really good. It's just having to edit myself over and over again is driving me nuts. Let's see, what else is there to talk about while these credits roll? I still, like, this game is good. It's just aged, like, it's not a bad game. There's some platforming issues. This is before analog sticks were invented. So Raziel can only move 4 directions, which gets kind of difficult at times when you're making the little platforming things. The combat's not great, but like for what you're doing, it works, Like, you're just hunting vampires. I don't know if it's like the best part's the story, so I guess it's best just to see the story. So I'm glad you have that, and I hope you're enjoying it, Vamp. It's really, I'm just playing this for you. Although I do want to talk about these games because they are great. But it is one of the better vampire stories I've quite enjoyed, and it's going to get a lot better as the games progress. So that's the second part of the Legacy of Kain. Let's continue next time, as soon as I figure out how. Bye!